Donald Trump, for his part, he's saying he wants to bring down the tensions. The left is reading his comments as an insincere way of ratcheting up tensions. The right is reading Donald Trump's comments as an attempt to actually settle the waters here. Here's what Trump actually said. So he did an exclusive interview with Fox News Digital on Monday morning. And he said he had his representatives reach out to the DOJ to offer to help amid outrage over the FBI's unprecedented raid on his private residence last week. He said the country is in a very dangerous position. There's tremendous anger, like I've never seen before, over all of the scams. And this new one, years of scams and witch hunts, and now this. If there's anything we can do to help, I and my people would certainly be willing to do that. There's never been a time like this where law enforcement has been used to break into the house of a former president of the United States, and there's tremendous anger in the country at a level that has never been seen before other than during very perilous times. He said that his team has not yet heard from the Justice Department on whether they will accept his offer for help. He said, I think they would want the same thing. I've never seen anything like this. I think it's a very dangerous time for our country. I'll do whatever I can to help the country. And then he reflected on the, quote, years of fake witch hunts and phony Russia schemes and scams. He said nothing happens to those people who perpetuate that. Nothing happens with them. And then they break into a president's house, a sneak attack where it was totally, no one ever thought a thing like this would happen. And he told Fox News the FBI agents break in and take whatever they want to take. He said the FBI agents told his team at Mar-a-Lago to turn off the camera and said no one can go through the rooms. Trump said they could take anything they want and put anything they want in, right? So he's now claiming they planted evidence, which again, there's no evidence of that, and it's typically a Trumpian flourish. He went on to suggest the FBI could have planted anything they wanted during the raid. And that's because, honestly, like Trump reads memes online and he'll be like, sure, why not that? So people are so angry at what is taking place, whatever we can do to help, because the temperature has to be brought down in the country. If it isn't, terrible things are going to happen. So again, I see the plausible read on the left that what he's actually saying here is, if you don't stop this terrible thing, I can't be, like things are going to happen. But on the other side, maybe it's plausible that Donald Trump actually doesn't want the terrible things to happen, and he wants the FBI and DOJ to explain themselves and settle whatever it is they want to settle, so that he's not in any legal danger. And well, whatever the case may be, the tensions in the country have been ratcheted up. And here's the thing. Merrick Garland had to know this was going to happen, right? And the FBI had to know that this was going to happen. That when you raid the house of the former president of the United States and the likeliest nominee for 2024, when that sort of thing happens, people are going to get rather upset, which is just another reason why you better have the damned goods. I'm not talking about if he committed a crime, don't prosecute him, or if he did something truly egregious, don't investigate him. I'm talking about, why can't you explain what in the world you are doing? I'm sorry, Merrick Garland getting on my TV and telling me to trust him is not going to work. This is a person who tried to weaponize the DOJ to go after parents in Virginia. This is a person who's weaponized the DOJ to go after police departments all over the country on the basis of no evidence suggesting they're systemically racist. Why would I trust Merrick Garland? I don't know why I'm supposed to trust the FBI, given the fact that, again, high-ranking public officials in the FBI were the people who were at the head of Russiagate in the first place. So they had to know this. That doesn't mean they're to blame for people who then act insane and threaten FBI agents or threaten FBI offices. It does mean that, of course, the tensions are rising. Trump isn't wrong about that. When he says that Americans are pissed, well, yeah, I mean, I was in Israel when this broke. I can't tell you the number of calls I received from people in the United States who said that suddenly they were extraordinarily worried about the workings of law enforcement. I'm not talking about people on the right. I'm talking about people in the center, some people on the left, saying, I mean, this is unprecedented. We can pretend this is precedented. It is not. The only time that I can remember a person in power using his authority to go after the political opposition in the middle of a campaign, which is, we're always in the middle of a campaign now, is Watergate, right? I mean, that's when Richard Nixon had the Watergate hotel bugged. And he wasn't using the FBI and DOJ for that. The fact that the FBI and DOJ are investigating the house of the former president of the United States, and then they say, trust us. Trust you? What in the world are you talking about? And then they say that the threat level is like nothing that they've ever... I'm sure that's right. And there's no justification for threats of violence or violence. It is not the FBI agents' fault that they are doing their job. It is the fault of Merrick Garland and the head of the FBI if they signed off on something that had very little predicate so far as we know. Their lack of transparency is utterly unhelpful. The fact that you don't get your dominoes in a row on this sort of thing is totally insane to me. If you're going to make a major move like this, shouldn't you be out there explaining what exactly you are doing? Merrick Garland didn't even bother to do that. And so, yes, I mean, I would imagine that the tensions in the country are going up. Again, I don't blame politicians for people attacking other people unless they actually call for those attacks to happen. I don't blame Donald Trump when a violent Trump supporter attacks a Cincinnati FBI office. I don't blame Barack Obama when Dallas police officers get shot in the middle of Black Lives Matter in 2015, 2016. I don't blame Bernie Sanders for a Bernie Sanders supporter attempting to shoot up Congress people. I don't even blame the Biden administration for somebody attempting to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh. Right? I don't blame anybody for that sort of stuff. Unless you call for violence, you're not guilty of the violence yourself. However, if you raise the temperature, you're raising the temperature and pretending that Merrick Garland didn't know that when he raised the temperature. Are they really that ignorant at the FBI and DOJ? Did they really believe that they would be able to put out a search warrant on the former president and then suggest that no big deal, nothing is happening here, we're just doing a normal investigation? Is that really what they thought? And well, this has resulted, of course, in the FBI doing this sort of passive-aggressive routine where they do something incredibly aggressive, and then when people get angry about the aggressive thing, they complain about the threat levels. Now, again, totally fair to complain about the threat levels, but just recognize that that is part and parcel of raising the temperature in the United States. There's a difference between explanation and justification. There's no justification for people getting violent or threatening violence. But to pretend that there is no relationship between doing an unprecedented thing and getting an unprecedented response is silly. Here's Andrew McCabe, former FBI member, close to the head of the FBI actually, suggesting that the threat level is higher than he has ever seen it.
How do you describe the threat level right now against the FBI?
Unprecedented. Never seen anything like this in my 21 years with the Bureau. It's not completely crazy for individuals in the FBI to be subject of threats as a result of cases they're working, but this is a first time I've ever seen a broadside, all FBI personnel are considered a part of this reporting. It's just terrifying.
And by the way, Andrew McCabe, again, they're trotting him out to talk about this. The former FBI officials they keep trotting out are all people who have left in disgrace. Andrew McCabe was fired one day before his scheduled retirement. He was fired because he was leaking material without the permission of James Comey. He was the deputy director of the FBI at the time. He was leaking material to the Wall Street Journal about the investigation into the Clinton Foundation. These are the people they are trotting out to talk about the institutional veracity of the FBI. Now, here's the thing. We have seen nothing remotely like this reaction, for example, to investigations into, say, Rudy Giuliani. So right now, it is being reported by the New York Times that legal pressures on Donald Trump and his closest allies intensified further on Monday as prosecutors informed his former personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, that Giuliani was a target in a wide-ranging criminal investigation into election interference in Georgia. The notification came on the same day. A federal judge rejected efforts by another key Trump ally, Senator Lindsey Graham, to avoid giving testimony before the special grand jury hearing evidence in the case in Atlanta. One of Giuliani's lawyers said in an interview he was notified on Monday his client was a target. That doesn't mean the person is going to be indicted. It usually means the prosecutors believe an indictment is possible based on the evidence they've seen up to that point. Giuliani, who is Trump's personal lawyer, spearheaded efforts to keep Trump in power, emerged in recent weeks as a central figure in the inquiry being conducted by Fani Willis, the district attorney of Fulton County, Georgia, which encompasses most of Atlanta. Earlier this summer, prosecutors questioned witnesses before the special grand jury about Giuliani's appearances before state legislative panels in December 2020, when he spent hours peddling false conspiracy theories about secret suitcases of Democratic ballots and corrupted voting machines. Giuliani is scheduled to appear before the special grand jury on Wednesday at a downtown Atlanta courthouse. His lawyer says that Giuliani will probably invoke attorney-client privilege if he is asked about dealings with Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the rejection of Senator Graham's effort to avoid testifying came in a written order from a federal district court judge in Atlanta. Graham is now scheduled to testify on August 23rd. So apparently, prosecutors want Graham's testimony for a number of reasons. Among them are two phone calls Graham placed just after the 2020 election to Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State, in which Graham inquired about ways to help Trump by invalidating certain mail-in votes. So here's the thing. The difference here between, for example, free speech, and just sounding off about the election, and attempt to obstruct justice, there's an intent component. If people knew that the election was lost and they just started making stuff up, then you could, in fact, have an obstruction of justice case. You could have attempts to suborn perjury. You could have attempts to prevent the counting of votes, attempts to suborn voter fraud, all the rest of it. Those could be actual charges. You're not seeing people get all hot and bothered about that because, again, the evidence is still coming. But shouldn't you get all of your ducks in a row before you raid Donald Trump? I mean, isn't that the big thing? Well, what's happening right now is all these investigations seem to be sort of convening on Trump at the same time. But the last step there is, if you're a prosecutor, forget all of your political priors here, right? Left doesn't matter. If you're a prosecutor, the way that you typically do this, and I've worked in a prosecutor's office, I've worked with prosecutors before. If you are a prosecutor, what you typically do is you get all the ducks in a row before you knock down that final door. Knocking down the final door first is a very weird thing to do. Who's got two thumbs and wants you to like and subscribe?